How changing your workplace narrative can lead to positive change. Abstract. This article explores how the narratives leaders and organizations construct significantly influence their behaviors, decisions, and potential for growth. Research demonstrates that these internal stories function as cognitive frameworks that can either limit possibilities or catalyze innovation. It presents a strategic approach to storytelling as a leadership tool, detailing how identifying and reframing constraining narratives can transform organizational mindsets through theoretical foundations, practical methodologies, and a compelling NASA case study. The article illustrates how conscious narrative reconstruction enables leaders to overcome limitations, navigate failures productively, and inspire meaningful change. By understanding the malleable nature of organizational stories and deliberately crafting aspirational frameworks that align with strategic goals, leaders can unlock dormant potential, foster resilience, and guide their organizations toward renewed purpose and achievement. Leaders and organizations alike are often stuck repeating the same patterns of behavior due to the stories they tell themselves. However, research shows that reframing these narratives can unlock potential for positive change. Today, we will explore how leaders can use strategic storytelling to shift mindsets and inspire new directions within their organizations. The power of our stories. The stories we construct about ourselves and our work profoundly shape our realities. According to cognitive science, we make sense of the world by crafting narratives that frame our experiences and guide our decisions. Pennebaker and Banasic. 1997. These narratives become self-fulfilling prophecies that direct our actions and limit our potential. For organizations, the collective stories leaders and employees tell become ingrained assumptions that can stifle innovation over time. Gabriel. 2000. Research underscores how embedded narratives dictate what is and isn't possible. In one revealing 1999 study, psychologists divided students into two groups and told each a different story about their abilities on an upcoming test. Those informed they were intellectually gifted performed dramatically better than those told they had low aptitude. Demonstrating the significant sway of internal narratives. Nimrod and Heiner. 2011. On an organizational level, the stories told about challenges, competitors, and vision shapes perceptions of what the future can and cannot hold. Leaders stand to gain much by understanding the stories that drive existing realities and constrain new opportunities. Recognizing how ingrained narratives influence mindsets and decisions is key to purposefully reframing them in a way that unleashes dormant potential. With strategic storytelling, leaders can instill renewed senses of possibility and motivation for change. Identifying limiting narratives. The first step for leaders is becoming aware of the stories currently being told. Often, the narratives that most influence thinking go unquestioned due to their familiarity. Leaders can uncover constraining stories through open discussions with employees to surface commonly held assumptions. Additional methods include analyzing past successes and failures for common myths that may have emerged, as well reviewing strategic plans for implicit limiting storylines. Gabriel. 1997. For example, a manufacturing company's leadership may find narratives of rising costs will eat into profits, or customers only care about price, have become ingrained over time. In reality, these stories were likely strategic oversimplifications that led to problematic rigid ways of thinking. Unpacking narratives allows leadership to recognize where mindsets and strategies have ossified due to an over-reliance on familiar yet restrictive storylines. With awareness of the stories shaping current realities, leaders gain understanding of what stands between the present and achieving broader ambitions. Critically reflecting on the narratives that dictate assumptions and choices empower leaders to begin purposefully crafting new stories, catalysts for positive change. Renewing perspectives for progress. On reflection, leaders may find that while previous stories served usefulness at one time, their frameworks are misaligned with current aspirations and market dynamics. The key is replacing limiting narratives with strategic new storylines that expand perspectives and possibilities. Bennis and Thomas. 2002. Research indicates storytelling leverages innate human tendencies to make sense of the world through compelling tales. Craig and Hull. 2016. When done purposefully, stories inspire action by creating motivational guidance for an envisioned future. McConkie and Boss. 1994. For example, to address its manufacturing challenges, leadership could write a new narrative of partnering with suppliers opens doors to innovative solutions, or understanding unique customer values leads to new opportunities. These storylines shift focus from constraints to opportunities by instilling renewed problem-solving mindsets. The story being told shapes realities. Leaders must consciously craft aspirational narratives that reframe employees' thinking, drive, and decision-making. Establishing a strong new overarching storyline is the first step. However, embedding the narrative systematically across all levels is vital for driving lasting organizational change. Leaders can introduce changes to mission statements, core messaging, leadership communications, employee engagement initiatives, strategic plans, and KPIs incentives aligned with the aspirational story. Dunn and Martin. 2006. With consistency, the new narrative gains credibility as a shared inspiration and guide influencing day-to-day activities. As the new story takes hold, leaders must recognize it as a living framework requiring ongoing shaping to match the organization's evolving reality. Stories gain power through affirmation, regularly recognizing achievements and failures as new chapters within the overarching narrative helps sustain momentum for growth. While aspirations remain steady, the storyline must retain flexibility to guide progress. Consistent storytelling at all levels keeps the narrative ingrained as a living driver of positive cultural and strategic change. Case study: Reframing failure at NASA. NASA's response to the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster provides an example of how reframing failure through strategic storytelling enabled progress. In the aftermath, an autopsy of what went wrong risked further demoralizing employees. Instead, NASA leadership acknowledged difficulties openly while reframing the tragedy as an act of discovery crucial for advancing safety and innovation. Dunbar and Reagan. 2004. Through skillful storytelling, they crafted a narrative where each mishap revealed valuable lessons that, when incorporated, edged the organization closer to accomplishing the greater vision. Annual Day of Remembrance events continue sharing new chapters where failures pointed to subsequent successes. Rather than condemning mistakes, the revised storyline positioned learning from difficulties as integral to pushing boundaries. This empowered employees to proceed with purpose while maintaining humility. NASA's reframing storytelling revitalized the workforce by shifting the mental narrative from one of defeat to continual growth. Relying on a consistent narrative of learning from challenges to enabling future achievements guided strategy and culture towards resilience. Their example shows how conscious story crafting empowers organizations to rise above difficulties by making failures feelings of momentum rather than stagnation. Ritualized storytelling strengthened beliefs in navigating uncertainty productively towards ambitions. NASA leadership understood the power of collective purpose crafted through strategic narratives. Their efforts demonstrate how leaders can utilize thoughtful reframing to transform failure into fuel for progress. Narratives communicate that setbacks signify stepping stones if approached as lessons that deepen understanding and edge capabilities forward. Conclusion: research affirms the profound influence of internal narratives on mindsets, culture, and performance. Leaders hold significant ability to purposefully refine the stories driving existing realities and opportunities by first becoming aware of implicit assumptions, critically reflecting and consciously crafting new aspirational storylines aligned with ambitions inspires renewed drive and decision-making across all levels. Embedding revised narratives cohesively and affirming them as living frameworks maintains momentum for change. Strategic storytelling also empowers organizations to rise above difficulties by reframing failures productively. When done skillfully, narratives communicate challenges signify valuable chapters towards accomplishments rather than condemnations. Leadership requires recognizing how malleable storylines shape perspectives and using this knowledge strategically to motivate progress. Understanding narrative's power and purposefully crafting compelling new frameworks unlocks potential for growth by making the envisioned future feel graspable through shared inspiration and direction. Leaders able to rewrite internal stories stand to unlock dormant capabilities and inspire positive cultural shifts.